this is right next to the Metropolitan Museum of Art, and these are some of the famous homes that are around here. This is now Ukrainian house, but it was a very famous mansion about 100 years ago. And you can see here all the other famous mansions too that are along here. And you know, it's very nice to be along 79th Street. But then here you can see where the flags are. That used to be the French consul, one of the French consulate generals here in New York, but they recently sold it. You can see other beautiful homes here on Fifth Avenue. These are like all magnificent homes that people love to have. And it's particularly good because it's right next to the Museum of Art. That's one of the big reasons why people like to live around here. Besides being on Fifth Avenue, besides it being one of the most desirable areas, it's very nice to be here because everything is so well maintained. And you can see here, even as we walk, how many people are just walking down here just to see what this area looks like. And you can see the magnificent people that are just walking by. And it's a very nice time for a Saturday. And on Sunday it gets even busier because a lot of people choose to come here also. And as you see, there's a little bit of renovation going on for the museum. But this is one of the most famous museums in the world, the Metropolitan Museum of Art. You can see that in the distance there. And a lot of people from all over the world choose to come here. And you can see how you have these beautiful buildings in the entire area. These beautiful buildings in the entire area, and you can see how people really maintain them. And like old mansions in the area, and just other old buildings in the area that people choose to live in. Now, some of these homes, they are like the old mansions, but they're not used as mansions anymore because they're too valuable to be used as mansions. And you can see here, like this old mansion here, you know, just how quaint it is to be nestled here among these other bigger buildings. There are other holdouts too. And you know, it's very interesting when you see the history of the holdouts. And a lot of these homes here, the co-ops are so exclusive that they don't even allow financing on the co-ops. And that's, even though they don't even allow financing, they're still very strict with who they want as a person to be in their co-op. And a lot of the who's who of the world live around here. Like one of the buildings here was the residence of Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis, and then one of the Koch brothers from the Midwest. They're a very wealthy family, ended up buying Jackie Kennedy Onassis's apartment. And so it was a very big deal for them. They enjoyed it, the notoriety of having that apartment, and the apartment being very exclusive, in a very exclusive building. But you can see here how, like, we're just looking at the building and how extensive it is, how big it is, how this is another example of one of those buildings that would require, or one of those museums that would require many days to really see. And it is really worthwhile to see. And as I said, it's one of the stops for people all over the world to come and visit. Now let's take a look at this magnificent architecture that's here. Now, just so everyone knows, it's actually built on city land. So they know that, and you can see how beautiful this is and how it's extended all the way there. And just as that's extended all the way there, if we take a look back to see what the other side of the building looks like, it looks just like that, you know. And you can see how just walking from one side to the other side takes a lot of time. Now, so to actually see all the exhibits, again, would be very, very difficult. But people try to do that in a few days because that's the only possibility for people to do that. And you'll see there's one building right across the street from the museum. That's where Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis was in. That's the building right there. You can just see. That's the building Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis lived in for many years. And that's the building that one of the Koch brothers ended up purchasing. And then there's a building right next door to that's an ornate mansion that used to be owned by the Duke family. And one of the daughters of the Duke family had it for many years. And it was a very nice place for them to own. And then a Russian billionaire bought it, and he never lived in it. And for his standpoint, it was just an investment, and he enjoyed it as just an investment. This is the building right here that was just an investment, right across the street. And the Russian person who ended up buying it paid $40 million for it. And then after owning it for a number of years, he decided he wanted to sell it. And on an off-market deal, a billionaire from Mexico, Carlos Slim, ended up purchasing it for cash, for $44 million in cash. And it was a great bargain for him, all cash and done in just a few weeks. And but what a magnificent house. And even though he really doesn't live there, because Carlos Slim is known to really only live in Mexico, and he prefers not to live in all these other cities. Even though he's very, very wealthy, from his perspective, he prefers to lead a more simple life. And that's what he does. And here's the entranceway. You can see how many people are choosing to come in and leave. Now, let's take another look at this house that Carlos Slim bought that is right at the entrance of the museum. And you can see how beautiful it is, how ornate it is. And again, it was for $44 million. He's renovating it right now. And the interesting story here, as you can see, there are a number of these hot dog stands here, right in front of the museum. Now, there's a special rule in New York City that allows the veterans to actually have a hot dog stand without paying any money for that. Now, there was a vendor that paid $500,000 for a hot dog stand right in that area, and for another $275,000 in that area. And so what ended up happening is the vendors realized they couldn't possibly compete with the veterans that came and that were only charging $1 a hot dog, and we're not paying any franchise fee to the Parks Department, because this museum, even though it's here, it's on Parks land. So the vendors were obligated to pay money to the Parks Department. So, but because the vendors that were paying like $500,000 and $275,000 to the Parks Department couldn't possibly compete with the vendors that were paying $0 to the Parks Department, they decided that they were not going to pay anymore, and they were going to just turn back the license. And here you can take a look. This is where we just walked by, and these are the different vendors that are here. It's a beautiful location to be, and this is why so many people choose to live here. And this is the Goethe House here. That's the German Cultural Heritage Group, and they own that mansion. And there's a lot of other beautiful mansions here. As I said, this is one of the most desirable areas for people to live in, because it's right next to the museum, because you're going to have unobstructed views for forever, you know, and a lot of people realize that there's a benefit to that. And also it's very easy to kind of take your time to do other things. And so we'll take a look at this other side of the museum and some of the buildings around the museum. We won't go into the museum, but this is just so that people have an idea of what the museum is like and what the neighborhood around the museum is like, because that's important too. Like when you're visiting New York, you're going to want to see, you know, what is everything like, and you can see how extensive the museum is and how much there is to see. And even once you go in there, as I said, it's just not easy to see everything. You can't even see a fraction of what there is there, because there's still too much to see. And we'll see how this is here once we go by, like the great architecture of all these buildings. And you can imagine here they have some space, you know, with this beautiful building here, and how they opened up some space here. But there's a lot of benefits to seeing these different cultural aspects of New York. And I think people in New York sometimes do not realize how lucky they are, and how they should take time to do that. Now, this here is the French Consul General and mission to the United Nations. You see how ornate it is, and it's great. Like when a country has been around for a long time, they're able to amass some very, very nice embassies and missions, because it's the governments that last for a long time. And we're gonna take a look at the northern side of the museum. And here you can see everything. This is looking north, all the way north to like 86, 88, 89th Street. You can see there. And then here, we'll take another look here at this part of the museum. That's just where people are. And you can see how beautiful it is. Like nestled in the park. And just for a lot of people, for people within the city to just enjoy. And this is the area right there where they have like a huge interior open space that deals with Egyptian antiquity. And what a beautiful place to visit, because you're able to see all this Egyptian antiquity and items that were donated by the Egyptian government to the city of New York and to the United States. And in the interests of everyone, they felt, the government of the US felt that it was one of the best places to put these artifacts was in New York City. And you can see here all the other area around. And we're just taking a look here, the beautiful buildings around here. Now, all these buildings are very, very difficult to be to be a resident in, just because they're very, very exclusive, and all the residents are the who's who of the US and the who's who of the world. And they choose this because it's one of the most exclusive places. And the irony of all the people that live here is that it's not their only place. So they might be paying $5, $10, $20 million for their apartments, but it's probably like their second or third homes. But for them, that's what matters. They might have a place in Paris, a place in London, and they choose to live that way. And that's not everyone. As I said, Carlos Slim, who bought the mansion for $44 million, he's well known for choosing not to have multiple places to live in, even though he has more money than a person would know what to do with. So, and I think it's well worth a visit to the Metropolitan Museum of Art.